Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Questing with Drak, where we once again continue, after quite a bit of an absence, into the Dragonflight storyline for World of Warcraft. And people might remember in the previous two videos, we covered the beginning of the storyline, which started with the Drak questing area, the starting area for them, as well as being able to go into the legacies animations to be able to further flesh out their stories and bring them up to speed in the world. But now that we've done that, and as you guys can see at the end of the Drak storyline, we ended in Stormwind and Orgrimmar, where we needed to recruit the Alliance and the Horde to join us on the Dragon Isles for this new threat, the Primalists. And that's exactly where we're going to be starting for our next zone. We actually take some time in Stormwind and Orgrimmar to introduce the Horde and the Alliance to the Drak and what they can bring to the table, as well as introduce ourselves to the Explorers League for the Alliance and the Reliquary for the Horde, because we are going to be joining them on this expedition to the Dragon Isles, and they are going to be working together in a joint effort to discover the secrets of the Dragon Isles. And so our beginning events are getting used to our new leadership, or getting to know our new leadership, as well as being able to showcase our talents to them, and also recruiting the prime members of the Explorers League and the Reliquary to prep us all for our expedition to the Dragon Isles. When we do so, we are also privy to a cutscene, which is playing now.
I did not expect to see you again so soon, my friend, after you'd answered the call of the Isles.
Something has happened, Khadgar. Something terrible.
Kalecgos, tell me.
It all happened so quickly. And Rathian, young as he is, bravely or perhaps foolishly tried to stop it. But he was too late. The Tempest had already been unleashed.
She let me live with a message. They are coming to cleanse the world of the Titan's stain. Alexstrasza, who is she? What is she?
She is Raszageth, youngest of the primal incarnates.
Incarnates?
4 dangerous adherents of the elemental forces. At the dawn of the aspects, our flights embraced the Titan's gifts. They did not.
The war that followed was unimaginable, and it took all of our strength combined to banish them.
If they were so dangerous, why were they not destroyed?
I hadn't the heart to do it. We were once as clutchmates.
Time, it seems, has not quelled their fury. And look at us. Should she free her kin now, we haven't the strength to stop them. And if Iridicrum's hunger is unleashed,
then we have no choice. If we are to be protectors once more, the aspects of our Dragonflights must be made anew.
Our queen is determined, Khadgar. But we've only just begun to find who we are again. And I fear that without help, we may never get the chance to see our future secured.
Then it seems the mortal races too must answer the call. the storms ahead.
Okay, so as the cutscene basically showed, we have Kaligos, the blue aspect, going to Khadgar. We don't know if he's the Guardian, but he technically is the resident of the Tower of Karazhan. And we learn a little bit more about what happened after the starting zone, specifically from the aspect's perspective. And after Rathian had dropped off the Alliance, he then went to go meet with the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. During this meeting, we learn more of the Primalists as well as their goals. So Raszageth belongs to a faction called the Primalists, which are basically proto-dragons that existed at the time the aspects were appointed, who rejected the Titan's gift and saw it as an impure thing and looked to remove their stain from Azeroth. They viewed the Titans as a stain on Azeroth. Their order was not welcome. And so we learned that in order to combat the Primalists, we will need to help the aspects regain their former powers, or at least we hope that's what can happen. So then we travel to the Waking Shores, which is the first zone of the Dragon Isles that both Alliance and Horde get to access. And after landing on the Waking Shores, either from Orgrimmar or from Stormwind, we set up a base camp where we then journey to Wingrest Embassy to meet up with Rathian, but instead are met by Cadet Sendrax, who is a Draconid recruit of the Red Dragonflight. Turns out that Major Domo Solistra, I believe is her name, as well as Rathian, are off taking care of other things, but Sendrax has issues of her own near the camps. And after helping out with some of these issues that Sendrax is dealing with and getting the camps acquainted, we convince her to release a flare to summon Rathian and Solistra, who haven't come back yet, and we don't know what's going on. We then meet up with them and discover the reason for their delay as an old enemy of the dragons, the Jaredin, or fiery giants, have begun to lay siege to the Red and Black Dragonflight's outposts. And that's the unique thing about the Waking Shores, is that most of these zones will be associated with one Dragonflight, but there are 5. And so it's kind of appropriate that the starting zone that you deals with what are considered to be the mother and father of these dragonflights, the Red and the Black. And so those are the ones that guard the gates so that no threats may come through. I actually like that idea, putting the Red and Black in the exact same zone and having similar problems. And after clearing a path to one of these outposts and helping them to regroup, we reconnect with Sendrax at the Lifebinder Conservatory to find Primalists attempting to infuse the elements into dragon eggs that they have captured to create more of their kind, more Primalist proto-dragons. We put a stop to it, but not without Sendrax paying the ultimate price to free the eggs from their control.
Stay behind me. I will endure the conduit's flame while you grab the egg. For the Lifebinder! Now! Grab the egg! Get it to Alex! For the flight! For the future.
After she pays the ultimate price, she makes sure that we have the eggs in hand, and with them we head to the Ruby Life Pools, where Alexstrasza herself looks to examine them.
What has happened to this egg? The energies that surround it are... This is dire. If the egg can be saved, it will be here, within the sacred waters of the life pools. Once the young of dragonkind filled this vibrant place. And the ruby oathstone, the very symbol of our calling, cast its bright glow high into the air for all to see. Now it lies dormant, as do all the Oathstones. I suspect they fell quiet when we relinquished our aspectral power. There are so many things we left behind. But now that we have come home, we can fulfill the callings of our flights and renew the 5 Oathstones. And through their unity, our absent power shall be restored.
We are then given an explanation on the Oath Stones that inhabit the various towers that represent the Dragonflights. Oath Stones are ancient towers that house the power of the aspect they represent, but now they're dormant, presumably after the events of the end of the Cataclysm, where, if people don't remember, the other aspects sacrificed their power to power the Dragon Soul to finally destroy Deathwing for good. It is Alexstrasza's theory that in order to combat the threat of the Primalists, we need to reignite those Oath Stones, thus restoring the aspectral powers. It is at this point, after some side questing that you can do within the Ruby Life Pools themselves, you are then given the basics of dragon riding, one of the biggest features of this expansion. If you played a Drak, you already have that experience by learning how to fly, but we learned the basics and also a lot of history lessons about Dragonflight, specifically the history of the Red Dragonflight, but pleasant times, they can only last so long, and a storm quickly approaches, heralding Razageth's attack on the life pools.
A storm.
It's official. Razageth is on the attack, and she is bringing all that she can bear upon the Ruby Life Pools. And while Alexstrasza tackles Razageth, it is our jobs to tackle the forces below and protect the eggs of all Dragonflights from the Primalists, including entering the Ruby Life Pools dungeon to halt their attacks on the Red Flight. While protecting the Life Pools, Alexstrasza tries to convince Razageth that time has weighed heavily on her, and that she wishes not to fight like they did so long ago.
Razageth, enough! We need not fight another war. There is still time to see reason. Time is precisely what you stole from me. Thousands of years rotting in that prison.
I failed then to restore peace between us. Too many paid for that.
Spare me your sanctimony. You forced the Titans' edict upon us all. You betrayed the world that gave us life. And when we dared resist, you cast us out. Never again! Your false reign must end! You are bold, well played. But you are fighting on the wrong side. She never told me the suffering they inflicted upon us. The insult of being forgotten. I want her to watch helplessly as everything she built comes crumbling down. Only then will she meet a fitting end.
But centuries of imprisonment have deafened the Storm Eater to her pleas, and sadly, their fight continues, with Rathian needing to step in to save Alexstrasza from sacrificing herself. It is then, with the threat abated, and if people are wondering why I'm not covering the Ruby Life Pools, they will be getting their own storyline video covering the events within the Ruby Life Pools. But after Razageth leaves to regroup the Primalists, Rathian goes to check on Alexstrasza, to which comes one of the worst moments for the Red aspect in this expansion, especially since it looks like a lot of effort was put into her redesign. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like a lot of it went into her character development.
Rathian, You have my gratitude. Your aid was unexpected, but appreciated.
It was an honor to stand with you, my queen. I trust your flight will now assist us in claiming the Obsidian Citadel from the Jarradin.
Of course we will, after we see to the safety of the eggs.
Surely they are secure now that Razagath has been driven away.
Oh, you do not know her as I do, young one. She is an unpredictable foe. For now, we must remain at the life pools and safeguard our future.
Our future? Or yours? The Obsidian Citadel was built to defend all of the Dragon Isles. You cannot abandon the legacy of my flight to the hands of our enemies.
I would have expected you to care more for the protection of helpless eggs, Rathian.
Stay then. Tend to what matters most to your flight, and I will save what matters most to mine.
She basically chastises Rathian for caring more about reclaiming the Obsidian Citadel from the Jarradin than protecting the future of dragonkind, and thus ignoring that that's the reason that Rathian wants to do that, is to protect dragonkind. They are the guards of the gate, and unfortunately Alexstrasza is blind to this because I think personally what they were trying to do is make it look like she was more focused on the Oathstones and her idea than addressing the actual problems that face the Dragonflights in the Waking Shores. This moment takes Alexstrasza and makes her come off as a Hollywood mom, only seeming to care when it suits her own personal agenda, which, as we will learn later, was a misguided action on her part. Now, Rathian is not in the clear either, unfortunately, as he once again rushes into a situation knowing how unprepared both he and his troops are, and is very much leading them to what seems to be a slaughter. But his actions, at least, are more understandable given his younger age compared to Alexstrasza, and his desires being very much on his sleeve in regards to this situation. The way that he sees it is if he can reclaim the Citadel, they can reclaim the Waking Shores, and thus he can get to protecting the other Dragonflights and assuming his role as the Black Aspect. It's misguided and it is overly ambitious, but it is noble in a way, considering that he's already had to protect us from a couple of threats himself, including the old god N'Zoth. At the Obsidian Bulwark, we meet back up with Scale Commander Emberthal, if people remember her from the Legacies animations, and again assess the situation at the Obsidian Citadel and Rathian's actual chances of survival. And when the charge begins, Rathian receives an unexpected miracle in the arrival of a group of black dragons he's never met before.
Who are you?
Sibelian, heir of Neltharion. And you are?
Rathian, heir of Neltharion, and I've never heard of you.
Likewise.
We'll discuss this later.
He is then introduced to Sibelian, former right hand of Deathwing and leader of the Black Dragonflight forces in Outland, who is also coming to claim the Obsidian Citadel, but also is seeking a claim as the new aspect of the Black Dragonflight, primarily based on the fact that he was the one who helped the Black Dragonflight in Outland. And yes, he still was part of Deathwing, but he actually did try to keep his fellow Black Dragons alive, especially when he had threats in the Burning Crusade to deal with, like the Grahn, specifically Gruul the Dragon Killer. Now, this is an intriguing new step, as now we have some competition for Rathian from Sibelian, which might actually be in his best interest, and thus they set their differences aside and reclaim the Citadel from the Jarradin invaders. After gaining a foothold in the Citadel, Rathian then makes it a priority authority to fix the shattered obsidian oathstone, which we help him to accomplish while exploring the various aspects of the obsidian citadel, which is actually a pretty big place. It's pretty cool looking. But now it's time to figure out their previous conflict, which becomes an actual reputation for the player to gain on which heir they wish to support. And spoiler, it's not really built that way. You can support both Sibelian and Rathian and still be able to get the rewards that would come from that. There's not too much, but we'll go a little bit more deeply into that in another video because it is more of an endgame reputation than it can be done while you're leveling in the Dragon Isles. Now that the Citadel is somewhat reclaimed, it is time for the first batch of black dragon eggs in many millennia to make their way to the ruby life pools and to be tended by the red Dragonflight, because that is ultimately their charge. They take care of the young Dragonflights and help nurse the whelps until they can stand on their own. And our newfound rivals, Rathian and Sibelian, are eager volunteers to help in that task along with us, because of course it's us, we're the champion. Sibelian proposes to make a more human approach to deliver the eggs, which Rathian takes every opportunity to complain about any way he possibly can, and it's really annoying. But basically we take a wagon to the ruby life pools, because hopefully by doing so, we'll be able to avoid unwanted attention. It turns out, however, that Sibelian's approach was simply a distraction to allow his troops to bring the eggs unseen from Primalist eyes. This thus pleases Alexstrasza, but pretty soon, like the player, she is also tired of the sibling rivalry on display and moves on to secure the eggs in their place at the life pools. And trust me, the player is very annoyed with their sibling rivalry. But as I said before, this is where Alexstrasza's earlier spat with Rathian proved to be misguided, as when we reunite eggs of all flights in the life pools, it immediately reignites the ruby oathstone, then stating that if Alexstrasza had simply helped Rathian sooner rather than later, even with just a small contingent of troops, she would have already accomplished her set task much more quickly, and she wouldn't have to be in that preachy position. And so it just makes everybody, but more importantly Alexstrasza, look bad as a result. And that's pretty much the story of the Waking Shores. We wrap things up and we then get pointed into the next zone, which would be the Onaran Plains. But I know that some people will point out that there is another dungeon in this, and I believe that its contents are based more towards the Rathian and Sibelian rep, and that is the Neltharis dungeon within the Obsidian Citadel, which we will cover again in a later video, where I will just try to wrap up all the dungeons as best as I can. In the meantime, though, thank you guys so much for joining me on this description. My overall thoughts on the Waking Shores is that it did have some good moments, but unfortunately the bad moments tend to outweigh it a little bit, because it's got a lot of bad characterization, specifically on Alexstrasza's end. At least I can say with Rathian and with Sibelian, they're acting the way that we think that they would. Sibelian being the ambitious lieutenant, and Rathian being the whelpling that he is compared to both Alexstrasza and Sibelian in terms of age. So ultimately it just makes Alexstrasza look bad because she didn't properly handle things, and more importantly, she took a lot of damage in her assault with Raszageth when it was very clear that Raszageth wasn't going to listen to her. So I'm a little disappointed in Alexstrasza's development. She's always been such a motherly figure, and apparently now being a mother means that you have to be stoic and badass or whatever, and it just isn't working compared to previous iterations of when Alexstrasza would have good moments in the lore. So it personally bothered me, but as far as questing and gameplay, the Waking Shores actually does keep you pretty invested, especially once you get used to the dragon riding. So I don't really have any complaints with that, but that's going to go ahead and do it for this video on the Waking Shores. Thank you guys so much for supporting this. I really do appreciate it. If you liked what you see, go ahead and leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. You can check out all of the other Questing with Drak videos that have already gone up, and I will join you next time, as next time we're going to be going into the Onaran Plains and continuing the story of the green Dragonflight. We'll see you guys then.